Hello world, Phil here, and today's video is about secrets from millionaires, how they got rich, and things that they normally don't tell the public. Let's get started.
There's a series of qualities that self-made millionaires have. If you have these qualities, your success is virtually guaranteed. And if you don't have these qualities, the qualities are learnable. Point number one is that all business or sales skills are learnable. All financial skills are learnable. If you can drive a car, you can learn any skill. If you can drive a car, you can learn the skill. Now, number two is you're probably only one skill away from doubling your income right now. You're probably only one skill away from setting yourself on the road to becoming a self-made millionaire. That turns out to be the case for almost everyone. And then I discovered that all people who are successful are excellent at what they do. You know the old question they asked Willie Sutton, the bank robber, why do you rob banks? He said, well, that's where the money is. Well, being in the top 10% is where the money is. So what you have to do is you have to pay any price and make any sacrifice to get into the top 10% in your field. So make this decision to get into the top 10%. And let me tell you what changed my life. Here I was struggling in my late 20s, and I learned this. It was a breakthrough thought. Is that everybody's in the top 10% started in the bottom 10%. Everybody who's doing well was once doing poorly. Everybody who is at the top of your field today was once not even in your field at all and didn't even know it existed. What that means is that if you're willing to pay the price and work hard and make the sacrifices, you can get into the top 10%. Now, how long does it take? It doesn't take a week or a month. Most people are really impatient. And to achieve mastery in your field takes 5 to 7 years. People say 5 to 7 years. Geez, I'll be 5 to 7 years older before I start enjoying the big rewards. Well, how much older will you be in 5 to 7 years anyway? Now, here's an important point. Are you ready? The time is going to pass anyway. The time is going to pass. 5 to 7 years from now, 5 to 7 years will have passed. The only question is, are you going to be at the top of your field, or are you still going to be down there with the mediocre 80%? And the wonderful thing is this is nobody's better than you, and nobody's smarter than you. If anybody else is at the top of their field, it means that you can be at the top of your field. Just go to them and find out how they got there, because they started at the bottom. Now, it may take longer for some people and less for others, but everybody who puts one foot in front of the other and keeps moving eventually gets there. Next.
Age 18, I started my own business selling nuts door to door. That was my first business. It did great until health department fined me. So I closed that, and I had about $20,000 saved. You know, at 20 grand, you could buy a mobile gas station. So we opened escrow. I put my $20,000 in a loan officer, turned out to be a con artist, and I lost all my money. That was my first real failure, back to zero. And then I went back to working at Winston Tires. Every time I was having a Porsche, Ferrari coming to the tire shop, I would ask, I would say, hey, what do you do for a living? 9 out of 10 times either they own a mortgage company or real estate. I'm like, wow, so real estate's good. So I got my license, and then I opened my own mortgage company. I was 22 years old. I made $290,000 the first year. And that was my first taste of success. Real money, right?
You know how I got rich? Used cars. But I'm going to tell you more importantly how I got rich. Okay? Nobody sold 100 used cars. There was only a couple people that ever sold 100 used cars. Ever. In the car business. The benchmark used to be 60. The only guy that ever sold 100 used cars was, guess who what? The guy that just got paid $1 billion for his dealership. Coons. He had the best dealerships on earth to do them out of. So I started selling 100 used cars, 115 used cars, when nobody else was doing it. Then all of a sudden the lid became higher because they see me doing it. It became something more and more popular for people to shoot for. 60 cars was considered a good job at a place, and 40 was considered bad. And the new, you know, the new world we're in today, right? Where we just osmosis, no leadership, no training, don't ask anybody to do anything, because if you do, you're a bad person. If you believe in them and they don't believe in themselves, and you speak to them with belief, you're arrogant. Imagine that. You speak to someone who doesn't believe in themselves. You speak to them as if you're capable of more. Why are you doing this? And yet you become arrogant.
The first 5 million is impossible. It's just impossible. The next 5 to get to 10 is really hard. Getting to 25 is pretty easy after you get to 10. And the rest, he was right. The first 5 was hell. It was hell. The second 5 was hell. then it got a lot easier, because by then you're deploying capital with an understanding of how hard it was to make the first 5 million. And I tell my entrepreneurs that in America, if you can acquire $5 million of wealth and have it sitting in a bank, you can live off that for the rest of your life. It's a...
What he's saying is the truth, though. And that's how I feel like as I get older. Like, when I was younger and starting business, I thought, oh, I need to make a lot of money, right? So I can buy these mansions and houses and whatever, cars, whatever. But then it just slipped my mind that like he's about to say, if you did, let's say, get $5 million and you were just to put it into the stock market and just live off the dividends and the interest, you could. Like, you wouldn't have to sell anything. You wouldn't have to work anything. That's how a lot of people's Roth RIAs work. And what they don't realize is, like, you could just do this yourself.
A great thing to have happen. But in acquiring it, if we're talking...
But also, getting $5 million is the hard part.
Numbers now, you're just in the middle of the game at your first 5 million. You don't want to stop there. You want to... What it lets you do is take capital to invest in a whole lot of other ventures that you're maybe an operator in, or maybe an investor in, or both. And my path has been, the big exit of the learning company in Mattel. There were 9 of us. It was a $4.2 billion transaction. That set me up for a lot of different things, of which I had great successes and crazy failures, losing millions of dollars on some, making millions on others. And what I've learned goes back to what you just said, you need a little luck. So if you're going to have a portfolio, if you're going to be an investor like I am, you need a lot of companies, because the ones you think are going to be your best winners never are. And the ones that you think are going to be dogs, that maybe you're taking a huge risk and end up being fantastic successes. And the path that this occurs on is very serendipitous. Markets change, economics change, products change. Poo-poo happens. Mm-hmm. And the outcome of that is never known until you get to the end of the road.
The rich don't tell people what they know. One of my best friends just sold his business for $2 billion. He and I started at Xerox together, by the way. And I asked him if he'd come and speak at my company. He says, no. They don't want to tell people what they do. So there is a rich dad. When I asked him if he would help me, he says, no. So that's what really happened. And so I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and then Oprah called, then Trump called. And I don't know if you know if Trump is a real guy or not, but he's pretty real.
You need to understand millionaire math. And I promise you, if somebody would have told me this while I was a senior in high school, I would have been a millionaire before my first year in college. Number one is you have to disconnect your revenue generation from time, because that is exactly how they get us. They try to anchor your revenue generation with time, and they do that in the form of dollars per hour. The reason we need to do this is because your time is forever limited, and we want to be able to make unlimited wealth. And honestly, if you don't have that mindset, I don't have the time in this video to convince you. So you're gonna need a product. It needs to be something that you can build once and sell unlimited times. And yes, you're gonna have to put time into building something the first time, but you're not gonna have to build it every time somebody buys it. We're gonna reverse engineer this from $1 million, because this is literally 10 years of income for the average American. All you would need to do is get 50,000 customers for something that costs $20. For the sake of this video, we're gonna say that the product is an ebook, so it hits the target of build once, sell unlimited times. And the first question that hits everybody's mind is, I don't know how to get 50,000 customers. And I like this quote that says, if you ask disempowering questions, you cannot find empowering answers. So instead of saying, I don't know how to get 50,000 customers, you need to start asking how you're going to get 50,000 customers. And here's where some serious millionaire math comes in.
That is a good mind shift or mindset shift. Like, instead of being like, I don't know how to get 50,000 sales, you could be like, how am I going to get 50,000 sales?
If 50,000 sounds like too big of a number, all you have to do is this. Add 1 0 to the 20, and that takes away a 0 from the 50,000, making it 5,000. So now you only need 5,000 customers to make $1 million. And if you build a really good product right off the bat, people are going to be more willing to pay you more money per person. For example, instead of selling an ebook for $20, you could take the information in your ebook and turn it into a coaching community where you actually coach people live on how to do what you're explaining in your book. People are going to be way more interested in paying you $200 than $20 for just a simple book. Obviously, that's if you can provide real results to them. And since thousands of people have already proven that this formula works, the next step is to add another zero, making your product price $2,000. But guess what? That knocks off another zero of the 50,000. Now we're down to 500 customers, and you're still making $1 million. So you've proven that your product has worked because people loved your book, and then you started coaching them live and proven that it's worth $200. And now for this $2,000, you can actually start mentoring people on the information that was in that original book. So your product hardly changed. All you did was changed your price and the level of guidance that you're providing. This is an extremely simple breakdown, but millionaires do their math in this way.
This is a great idea if you fully understand what's going on here. So like, yes, the trap or the comforting area that most of society stays in is just trading your time for money. You go to work, you work for a couple of hours, those hours are worth a certain amount of money, and that's the exchange. You exchange your value for the time monetization. But if you were to become a millionaire instead of working for 10 years, you could, like he's saying, create an ebook that you sell for $20, but then you would have to get 50,000 sales. But if you upselled and said, hey, I'm doing a mentoring community on the book for $200, the inner circle, then you only need, I think it was 5,000, 5,000 sales. But then if you do one-on-one mentoring, which would be your massive upsell, it would be $2,000, and you would only need 500 people to sign up for that. And each instance that I've broken down would bring you to $1 million. And that's honestly, are you going to spend, let's say you made 50,000 a year. Are you going to spend 20 years of your life to make $1 million? Or do you want to spend 20 years of your life trying to figure out how to make your own $1 million, in your own time? Because he's right. Our time is limited. So instead of trading time for money, get something that works for you even when you're like asleep.
They are thinking, what is the fastest way that I can make this $1 million? And if you're wondering what business you should actually go and start, I have a ton of videos on my page explaining that.
So, you want to become a millionaire in your 20s. Well, these are the 5 lessons that, when implemented, will not only put you on the path towards becoming a millionaire, but also allow you to level up as a person. You see, it's one thing to become rich later in life, but becoming rich in your teens and even 20s will unlock a level to life that you didn't even know existed. And that's not simply because of the money, but because of the person you need to become to earn that money. I mean, take it from me. I made my first $1 million in profit at the age of 18. And honestly, the biggest lesson I've learned in the last few years is that there are truly a million ways to make $1 million. And that is why the first lesson is don't be afraid to try making money in different ways. Now, I told you that there are a million ways to make $1 million, and that is true, but it's not the whole truth. You see, about 999,000 of those are unnecessarily difficult, maybe even more than that. Yet, there are more than enough ways to make money that, although may not be easy, are very, very, very simple. Now, I've made millions of dollars through half a dozen ways. And having been in the space for 10 years now, I've seen so many different things work for different people. One of the biggest mistakes people make is trying to force their way with one money-making method. And that's not to say that you don't need consistency and tenacity when it comes to making money. But you sometimes also need to realize that not every method will work for every person. And sometimes it's better to simply figure out what works best for you rather than keep hitting your head against the wall trying to do a method that maybe works for someone else. And that's why I keep saying, don't be afraid to make money in many different ways. Try different things, acquire different skills, and eventually put many different skills together. Why do you think I keep telling you just to put one foot forward in front of the other? It's because at your stage, you need to always be doing and always be learning. And before being able to earn your first $1 million, you need to earn your first $100,000. And before your first $100,000, you need to earn your first $10,000. And earning your first $10,000 all starts with earning your first $1,000 online. And if you thought there were many ways to make $1 million, there are even more ways to make 1,000. And that's why I've distilled it to its most basic element. So much so that I've set out to prove that anyone can make their first $1,000 online with this system. And to prove exactly that, I've launched Digital Launchpad. For just $37 a month or 74 cents per day if you go for the yearly plan and get a 40% discount.
Hey, that's a good sales pitch. Like, honestly, he's making, I'm making sure, I guess the rest is just a sales pitch. But honestly, pitching something that costs $37 as, what did he say, 74 cents a day? That's pretty smart, because people be like, oh, 74 cents, that's not that much. You know?
Or 74 cents per day if you go for the yearly plan.
Like, that's a good sales pitch.
You be sitting, typing papers, you are a millionaire.
Don't play fantasy football. Don't play fucking video games. Don't go buy a big ass house, and don't go buy some crazy ass car you can't afford. If you get a good job, I would advise you to go to the bank and set up an automatic auto draft that starves you in some way. So money stacks up while you find a place to put the money. Whether that's crypto or real estate or starting your own business, that's probably the 3 best ways to do it.
Here's how the rich use debt to get even richer, and this only works because debt isn't taxed. Let me explain. So let's say you want to buy this house for $100,000. So the good news is we only need $20,000 of our own money to buy it. And then the $80,000 we can get from the bank. So now Sally wants to move in and she's going to be paying us $1,000 a month in rent. So of that $1,000, $400 will go towards expenses. Another $400 will go towards a mortgage, and then we're left with $200 in cash flow. So fast forward a few years, and the house that we bought is now worth $150,000. And since we gradually increase rent, we're now getting another $100 in cash flow every single month. Because the house is now worth more, we're gonna go to the bank and ask for what's called a cash out refinance. They're gonna lend 80% of the new house value, which is $120,000 in this case. So $80,000 of that we're gonna use to pay off our old loan. Now we're left with $40,000 in tax-free money. And sure, our payment is now a little bit higher, yes, but it's still cash flowing, and now we have $40,000 in tax-free money that we can do whatever we want with. And if you want to learn all things financial freedom, make sure to give me a follow. Rich.
All right. Well, that'll be the end of today's video. I'm going to do part 2 after this. So if you like videos like this and you're learning something, then please give this a like, subscribe, leave a comment, and I will do part 2 tomorrow or next coming days. So make sure that you subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching.